Hi, welcome to Anaprime Recap. You are teleported to a fantasy world where legendary weapons, magic, and bizarre monsters exist, but your only ability to survive is to buy items online. We are in the anime, Tandemo Skill, first season. Episodes 1, 2 and 3. In a fantasy world, a group of new heroes are summoned to fight a mysterious threat. The magician of the kingdom uses his magic to observe the combat profile of each of the warriors. One of them is the bearer of a powerful sacred sword, while his companions possess full mastery to use magic with all the elements. Finally, the magician visualizes the powers of Mukoda Tsuyoshi, a 27-year-old who has only a single skill, Net Supermarket, being a completely unknown and probably useless technique on the battlefield. The protagonist and the other summoned are taken to the king, and it is revealed that the demon lord intends to invade the kingdom. The heroes swear loyalty to his majesty and vow to protect and end any threat that tries to destroy the empire. Tsuyoshi, on the other hand, explains that he doesn't have the proper techniques to protect people, and therefore would end up getting in the way of the heroes. The king understands the situation and gives the man 20 gold coins to keep quiet and live a normal life in the city. The protagonist now wanders the streets in search of more information. He also buys some food and new clothes so as not to attract so much attention. At the end of the day, the man checks into an inn and begins to investigate his abilities. He uses a voice command and opens an interface with all his statuses. The young man notes that he has a skill that enables him to carry several items, being called Item Box. He also has a skill titled Appraisal, and his unique technique, Net Supermarket. Tsuyoshi activates his secret ability and quickly looks at the interface of an online store. All the products contained there are the same as in a supermarket in Japan. The man then performs a test and buys some items. He uses a coin as a form of payment and magically receives the products he bought. The protagonist believes that this ability could be extremely useful in the future, and so the next day he begins his journey to a nearby town called Keels. On the way, Tsuyoshi talks to one of the travelers. The old man is a merchant and ends up delivering some interesting information to the man. The protagonist discovers that only 1 in every 1,000 people possess the ability Item Box, which is a very rare technique. In addition, the skill Appraisal is coveted by all the guilds in the country, for its magical appraisal tools are very precious. Finally, the old man tells the man that he has made an excellent choice in leaving the kingdom. After all, information is circulating that the king will soon close all borders. Arriving in the city of Keels, Tsuyoshi sees an announcement that all means of transportation are temporarily halted, so he goes to a tavern to get some information. 2 warriors inform him that if the population decreases, the number of soldiers will also decrease, and for this reason the country is blocking all means of transportation. So the protagonist decides that he will make his journey on foot to another kingdom, but finds that there are several kinds of monsters on the way. He then goes to the Adventurers Guild to recruit an escort to take him safely to his destination. When he arrives, the attendant informs him that due to the transportation stoppage, the search for escorts has increased significantly, causing prices to rise absurdly. Tsuyoshi sees no other alternative and ends up paying 8 gold coins for the service. The attendant introduces the group responsible for escorting the man to the kingdom of Venan. The leader is named Werner, a Class C hero belonging to the Ironwool group. The next day, the guild begins the escort mission. After a few hours of walking, the group decides to stop for a rest and Tsuyoshi volunteers to make lunch. The young man impresses everyone with his portable stove, which he bought using his legendary Net Supermarket skill. When they finish preparing the food, the guild tastes lunch and feels amazed that they have eaten such a perfect meal. The journey continues. The group was preparing to enter a forest, but before that they are attacked by 2 giant bees. Tsuyoshi is completely frightened at the sight of these monsters. Werner and Vincent wield their swords and with just 1 blow manage to eliminate their enemies. However, Rita warns them that a giant boar is near the guild. Before the team can come up with a strategy, the animal surprises the group. Tsuyoshi is placed in the rear, while Werner and Vincent advance toward the monster. A frantic fight is waged at that moment, but still the brave warriors manage to eliminate the great creature. After the threat is over, the guild decides to skin the animal to sell and use its meat as food. Since they could not carry all that weight, Tsuyoshi volunteers to store it in his item box. As evening approaches, the team of heroes anxiously awaits the next dish that the man would prepare. The protagonist asks the group to wait elsewhere because he is embarrassed to cook in front of other people, but this is just an excuse to use his Net Supermarket skill. The young man prepares a delicious dish with wild boar meat and other spices. Within minutes he delivers the meal to each of the heroes and they all claim that the recipe is without a doubt the best of all. Ramon explains that in their travels they are used to eating hard breads and dried meat, which is why everyone was so amazed. Tsuyoshi finds this strange, since it is just a simple meal, so to clear his doubts, the protagonist uses his evaluation skill to observe Rita's overall status. As he does so, the man is startled and realizes that the scout's strength and magical power have actually increased significantly. He then comes to the conclusion that the meal made from the materials in the net supermarket is capable of changing the status of whoever ingests them. The protagonist believes that this could be a great danger in his life, for if they find out, his future will be completely ruined. The man tries not to have bad thoughts and goes back to eating his stew, while being watched by an unknown figure that was hiding among the bushes. After this, the group travels to the kingdom of Venin, crossing forests, rivers and mountains. During all this, the mysterious being followed them. On a certain night, the guild takes another of its rest breaks. Tsuyoshi begins to prepare a new dish with wild boar. After some time cutting the meat and separating the ingredients, he makes a recipe with an incredible flavor and aroma. The group wastes no time in devouring the food made by the man, but their happiness ends in an instant when the group is surprised by the arrival of the legendary giant wolf, Fenrir. The creature asks to be fed, and Tsuyoshi is startled, for the wolf could speak its language. The group of heroes run and hide behind a tree trunk, then the man hands Fenrir a plate of food. The wolf devours all the meat in a few seconds and orders the human to make more, so the protagonist prepares the meal several times until the creature is satisfied. Finally, the wolf proposes a family pact to Tsuyoshi, so that the man would be responsible for always preparing delicious meals for him. The protagonist tries to deny it, but Fenrir won't allow him to take no for an answer. So the legendary wolf puts his face to Tsuyoshi's forehead, and at that moment a family pact is formed. The protagonist is enveloped by a magical aura, and Fenrir says he is looking forward to tasting his 3 meals a day. The giant wolf tells him that he now needs to be given a name by the person he made a pact with. Tsuyoshi thinks of some names and decides to call him Fel. The next day, the group continues their journey to the next kingdom. They end up attracting the attention of several travelers who are intimidated by Fenrir's presence. Rita says that this is due to an old legend where a giant wolf almost destroyed a kingdom entirely. Franca says that this is not legend, but historical fact. At this point, Fenrir tells everyone that it's already mealtime and they should take a break. Tsuyoshi agrees with the idea, but warns that there was very little boar meat left in his box of items. Hearing this, the wolf heads off into the forest in search of meat, while the Heroes Guild shows tremendous admiration for the man's bravery in interacting with the monstrous creature. In a few seconds, Fenrir returns with a downed prey. It was a rockbird, a rank B monster. Werner, seeing the creature, says that perhaps his group could not win a battle against the flying monster. Tsuyoshi, on the other hand, says that he doesn't know how to cut the creature's body to remove its flesh, so the guild helps him perform this task. After the meat has been removed, the protagonist prepares a delicious dish for the group, an amazing rockbird teriyaki accompanied with onion soup. Fenrir also feeds himself with several portions of food. In the end, the rockbird was only enough for 1 meal. After this, the group continues their journey and finally reaches the border with the Venin kingdom. However, with the presence of the giant wolf, several soldiers have been stationed to interrogate the travelers. The troop leader is afraid of the trouble that creature could cause in the city, but Tsuyoshi claims that he has a family pact with the legendary wolf and assures him that Fenrir will do no wrong. As such, the group is allowed to enter the kingdom, but first they must present their respective guild cards. The protagonist does not have this item and is therefore obliged to pay 5 silver coins to enter and 2 silver coins for his wolf's passage. As they pass through the gate, Werner warns Tsuyoshi that Fenrir's presence in those lands will draw a lot of attention. This news will probably reach the king, and the man will be in serious trouble. The young man is worried, for he does not wish to become the center of attention. He informs him that he does not intend to stay in the kingdom of Venin. His goal is to explore the vastness of that world and take his plates of food everywhere. The group arrives in town and quickly Fenrir's presence begins to attract attention. A man approaches Tsuyoshi and invites him to his house for a meal. The man is not comfortable with this and tries to reject the invitation, but the man insists on inviting him by all means. The giant wolf approaches the resident and claims that he knows that the man has some hidden interest behind that invitation to him. Only Fenrir's frightening presence is enough to make the stranger flee in despair. Rita talks about how people might be interested in the great power the wolf carries. Franca states that Fenrir possesses such uncommon power that no one can stop him. However, the powerful wolf has had a worthy opponent in the past. Fenrir explains that his only opponent was the elder dragon. The two of them had a powerful fight 400 years ago. As the group reaches its final destination, Tsuyoshi signs a document proving that the guild escorted him to his destination. Before it could get dark, he bids farewell to the group and continues his journey with Fenrir. The man walks through the city with his giant wolf and after a while decides to join the Merchants Guild, just as he was told to do by the heroes who guided him there. He walks to a place to register and is told by the attendant that there are a few ranks in the guild. Like any beginner, the young man takes his membership card and receives the rank Iron. In the evening, Tsuyoshi finds a place to stay, but they forbid animals to enter, so Fenrir has to sleep outside. The wolf doesn't care, he just wants to be fed delicious meals. Therefore, the protagonist begins to prepare one more of his dishes with the remaining boar meat. He purchases the ingredients with his net supermarket skill. After all the preparation is done, he can make Fenrir several steaks, and for him, a delicious boar steak rice bowl. After enjoying his meal, the man goes to his room and sleeps in a comfortable bed, after several days of sleeping in forests. The next morning, the young man heads to the Merchants Guild to sell some items. When he arrives at the place, he shows his spices to the attendant and she is impressed with the items. The woman asks Tsuyoshi to accompany her to a back room. The man is afraid of this, but decides to enter the place. There the master of the Merchants Guild claims that he examined the salt and pepper that the man took, and came to the conclusion that those spices were of very high quality. The old man proposes to buy the 2 items for 10 gold coins. The man balks at the proposal. He remembers that he bought the salt and pepper using his net supermarket. The 2 items together cost 10 copper coins, and now he is getting 10 gold coins to sell them. The old man panics when he realizes that the man is silent and raises the purchase price to 17 gold coins. Tsuyoshi doesn't think twice and accepts the amount. As he leaves the place, he understands that this will be the way for him to earn his money in an honorable way. After this, the protagonist goes to the Adventurers Guild to also register. He decides to join this group because of Fenrir, so that they can explore all the cities in the kingdom together. When he arrives at the place, the attendant doesn't give a damn and just asks him to fill out a registration sheet with some information. He then pays a fee of 5 silver coins and receives his registration card. The woman explains that there are 7 ranks in total, with S being the highest rank and G the lowest. The man will start at rank G and must only do G and F level missions, and it is mandatory to do at least 1 mission a month. She also warns that the guild is not responsible if Tsuyoshi is injured or eliminated in any quest. After hearing the explanation, the protagonist tries to find a mission of his level on the quest's wall. He finds only one to collect medicinal herbs. Determined to begin his adventure, Tsuyoshi decides to complete this mission the very next day with Fenrir's help. After completing his registration, the man returns to the inn and cooks again for his relative. The giant wolf has an insatiable hunger and tells him that he is willing to eat all the dishes Tsuyoshi prepares. At that moment, the young man decides to use his evaluation skill, and with this he has access to the status of the giant wolf. Tsuyoshi is startled by what he sees, because Fenrir is reportedly 10-14 years old, has access to a huge arsenal of elemental spells, has physical and magical stamina, and is level 906. The next day, the protagonist goes to the plains of the kingdom to collect some medicinal herbs and complete his important mission. Fenrir says that he will hunt some animals for the man to prepare future meals. However, before leaving in search of his hunt, the legendary wolf senses the presence of several monsters near that area and thinks that if something happens to the man, he will no longer be able to have his delicious meals. For this reason, the creature conjures a protective shield on Tsuyoshi and goes after its prey. The protagonist uses his evaluation skill, and identifies the exact spot where the medicinal herbs are in all the undergrowth. In a few seconds he completes his mission and ends up gathering more herbs than necessary. While the man was preparing lunch, Fenrir returns from his mission with a downed rockbird. Tsuyoshi finishes cooking and presents his family member with a very tasty new dish, spaghetti with meat sauce. Fenrir is afraid that the dish doesn't have much meat, but when he tries it, he finds it extremely tasty. The pair devours the entire meal and prepares to return to the city. But before that, the legendary wolf explains that he has slaughtered some creatures to leave in stock, so Fenrir takes the protagonist to the forest and shows him a mountain of eliminated creatures. Tsuyoshi realizes that among the bears and snakes, there were also orcs. He asks the wolf if those monsters are edible, and Fenrir answers that humans have always eaten orcs in their meals, their meat is not harmful to anyone's health. The protagonist then stores all those creatures in his item box and returns to the city using Fenrir as a mount. Upon arriving in civilization, Tsuyoshi heads for the Adventurers Guild. When he arrives at the place, he talks to the attendant and receives payment for his collecting mission. He then asks if he can sell some of the creatures he has collected along the way. The woman is suspicious, as the man is only a rank G adventurer, but soon understands when she realizes that he had Fenrir as his support. When the man informs her that he wants to sell some orcs, she directs the adventurer to another attendant. The man asks the man to follow him to the back of the establishment to show him what he wants to sell, and then Tsuyoshi places all the monsters Fenrir has slaughtered on a table. The young man explains that he only wants to keep the meat of the creatures and the rest would be for sale. The merchant tells him that the man should return the next morning to collect payment for the items. Tsuyoshi returns to his inn and begins to prepare a new dish with orc meat. He uses a few ingredients and after going through a long preparation process, he creates a delicious pork piccata with meat sauce. Fenrir quickly eats his meal and is amazed at how good it tastes. Tsuyoshi is wary of eating the orc meat, but upon tasting it he realizes that it tastes exactly like pork. The next day, the man goes to the Adventurers Guild and comes across a gigantic amount of meat. The man informs him that he has deducted from his payment the work he did to remove the meat and hands the man a sum of 202 gold coins, just for the furs and tusks. The monsters slaughtered by Fenrir were rank A and B, so their items have an extremely high price to buy and sell. In addition, the man hands the protagonist some magic stones. He explains that this material is only found in high-level monsters and that they have a great deal of accumulated magic power. Tsuyoshi stores his meat and valuable items, and decides to leave town for a while. According to him, it is not safe to stay in one place for too long due to the presence of Fenrir, who attracts too much attention. On the same day, the man goes on a new adventure with his wolf. They walk through the fields until they reach a ruin, where the main character says they can spend the night and have their next meal. For the first time, Tsuyoshi makes his net supermarket visible. Fenrir's mouth waters when he sees how much food the man could conjure up with his technique. The protagonist buys various types of meat and puts them on a large plate so that the legendary wolf can devour his entree before the main course. Fenrir quickly tastes all the types of meat that were served. The man then puts only one piece of steak on his plate, but this one was a wagyu steak, an extremely expensive meat with a surreal flavor. The legendary wolf tastes this delicacy and goes into total ecstasy. As night falls, Fenrir feels completely elated. He tells his master that he needs to spend all this energy on some mission. Tsuyoshi finds this strange and decides to use his evaluation skill. As he does so, he is amazed, for the wolf's entire status has doubled. Fenrir conjures up a shield on his master and claims that it could even block a dragon's breath. The protagonist feels comfortable with this protection and decides to sleep peacefully. In the forest, Fenrir runs at high speed and comes across a rockbird. The wolf advances toward the creature and with one blow eliminates the bird. He then spots a giant deer on top of a mountain. The legendary wolf then conjures his lightning magic and unloads a powerful electric current on his opponent, winning the battle without even moving his body. As he climbs the mountain, he finds a camp of orcs, and Fenrir quickly conjures a magic that releases a devastating windstorm, eliminating all of his opponents. At that moment, an orc general arrives on the scene and tries to fight the legendary wolf, but is quickly defeated. Finally, Fenrir comes across a gigantic chimera. He uses its power and creates a powerful electrical blow that wipes out all life forms in the vicinity. The next day, Tsuyoshi is startled by how many monsters the legendary wolf has defeated. So, what did you think of this anime? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like it and subscribe for more anime recaps. See you next time.